the Tier 5 channel members and patrons: Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Sergeant Puma, Cat Crab Lobster, and Duck Machine. Thank you very much for the support. It is much appreciated. Story number 1. The Lonely Farmer, written by Chucky Snow. Antonio Gavitelli's shuttle locked onto the station. The microgravity of the asteroid the station was built into was just enough to keep things from floating. He glided through the airlock, towing a large, rounded metallic object behind him. He was greeted by Preston Davis, owner of the station, and much of everything else outbound from Mars. "Mr. Gavitelli, it's wonderful to finally meet you in person," he said, shaking Antonio's hand warmly. "Antonio is fine, Mr. Davies. It's wonderful to be here. Please, I'm Preston to my friends, and I certainly count you amongst them. Leave the pod and let's go below to get a bite to eat." The pod was stowed on a dolly and the two drifted down towards the habitation ring. The interior of the asteroid had 2 large spinning sections close to 1 kilometer across. They spun in opposite directions, keeping the station centered. One ring held the engineering and labs, the other the living quarters. They rode an elevator down a few hundred meters, the floor slowly rotating out as they dropped. "This isn't critical by any stretch, but I like to have some pressure on my feet. We actually have something of a hospice here. It's much easier to give birth under centrifugal forces. The Belters are more than happy to rent a bed for a month or 2 while they come to term. Doctors could give you more details, but I'm just happy having the costs offset a bit around here by some borders." The elevator stopped, and the pseudo-gravity was very noticeable. Antonio had been in flight for nearly a week, and while it hadn't been long enough for major muscle loss, he still felt it. "We keep it around 75 Earth normal. I have plenty of elderly staff that aren't looking for the full workout," he smiled, pouring a pair of drinks at a slight angle. He handed one over. "But enough of that. We're here to celebrate your work, and it was even under cost and ahead of schedule." "Well, you were quite generous with both money and time," Antonio offered, drinking the champagne. He noticed happily that their bubbles were floating up instead of congealing at the edges. "So, the emails tell me that production is going to begin at 1,000 units a month?" Preston asked, sipping on his glass. "Yes, barring QC issues, you'll be getting deliveries within 30 days. "Wonderful. You know, I consider this my life's work, a raison d'être, but I am the middleman. People like you made my dreams come true," he said, settling into the couch. "Ha! Well, to be fair, it took a trillionaire to even be able to think of something on this scale," Antonio countered. "So, when is the big unveiling?" "Tomorrow, 8 a.m. station time, we start the video feed. We'll run the gun then, but without more pods, it's pretty symbolic at this point. You know, it's pretty symbolic even when we're at full capacity. What can I say? I'm an optimist." The next morning, Preston, Antonio, and a dozen other scientists and engineers were seated before a large glass window. The window looked out onto a railgun, more massive than even the gun that had been used to launch robotic probes at nearby stars 100 years ago. The gun used a massive scaffold to keep its alignment over the 200-kilometer distance. Visible only by the blinking lights, a power station sat on the midpoint of the gun, aimed at nothing but the void of deep space. The gun was oriented almost perfectly away from the sun, though a few degrees above the plane of the system. A clock chimed 8, and the cameraman pointed at Mr. Davies. He rose up and floated over to the podium. The gun was framed nicely in the background. "Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for giving me your time today. There have been rumors about what we have been working on here on Davies 12. And today, I put those rumors to rest. Actually, I think we're going to confirm a few of them. As you know, one of mankind's greatest unanswered questions is there life in the universe? Philosophers have debated it since time began, and scientists have attempted to answer it for nearly as long. So far, the answer has been a resounding no. We've combed every planet, planetoid, moon, and asteroid and have not found so much as a microbe. We've peered into the dark and seen only the dark. We've listened to the heavens and heard nothing but the movement of rocks. Then, around 5 years ago, we got back the first signals from our 3 probe groups. Proxima Centauri explorers had 2 separate probes touch down on 2 Goldilocks planets. They were completely sterile, but that was okay, since the star wasn't really the bright type. We had bigger hopes for Alpha Centauri A explorers and Tau Ceti explorers. Then, not a year later, we began to receive radio communication from them. Like myself, we all thrilled hearing the news that these probes found planets. Then they found liquid water. Certainly, these planets under the similar sun and with that which life needs to exist would finally help answer our questions to the affirmative. But then, a month later, touchdowns on 5 different planets in those same systems let us know that we do indeed seem to be alone. Some people find comfort in that. No life means that there are less to fear from out there. But I look at it in a different way. We looked at the void because we wanted something to be looking back. We didn't want to be alone. We wanted something, anything, to share the universe with. With that in mind, I am now attempting something audacious in its scope, working with these scientists and engineers behind me. We launched into an endeavor greater than anything man has ever attempted. We plan on sharing life itself with the universe, using the largest launch platform ever constructed, and using pods that are capable of holding microbes of certain minerals in near stasis for potentially millions of years. We plan on sending the building blocks for life out into the galaxy, and perhaps the greater universe itself. Without propulsion of their own, we hope that the seeds we send out will find the gravity wells of planets and impact on their surface, strong enough to survive re-entry, but designed to shatter on impact. These pods will provide an opportunity for life to gain a foothold wherever they go. We will fire one pod today, but that will soon be joined by tens of thousands of others. As many of you know, my fortune is not small, but I expect to use the bulk of it to finance this endeavor going forward. The universe has been very good to me, and this is the greatest gift I can give back. We will not see the fruits of these labors. We plant trees today from which we will never feel shade. But perhaps, if conditions prove just right, we may be the forefathers of the entire ecosystems, or even intelligent life itself. Though this might be billions of years in the future, it is a future that might well only exist if we would it to be. Preston then pressed a large red button on the podium. A loud hum emanated from the floor, and a flash of light signaled that the gun had fired. 200 kilometers away, a large block of metal containing a starting kit for life soared out of the breach at a healthy percentage of the speed of light. Aiming at nothing, it would wander the cosmos in search of a welcoming world in which to place its precious cargo. Farewell, may you find a welcoming home. We hope one day our children and yours might find each other and know that you are not alone. End of story. Story number 2. Making Things Work, written by Tamwin5. Humans are well known for creating makeshift solutions to problems. Most scientists believe this stems from the hyperactive imaginations that humans have, compared to most species. When you hand a human an eating utensil, they are as likely to use it as a catapult as to actually eat food with it. They see all the ways that you could subvert what something is meant to do, but instead think about what it could do. The chief and most well-known example of this is with human engineers. While a large portion of sentients find it disconcerting at how often these engineers seem to pack bond with inanimate machinery, and an equal number are frightened by the tinkering that they will inevitably do. Having a human engineer aboard a ship increases average survival rate during a catastrophe by nearly 700%. Out traveling in space, you have no one else to help you, and death, with the exception of your lucky Torsenets out there, is only a pressurized hull away. A human's ability to come up with unique solutions and uses for the available tools comes into the greatest strength here. Some examples for the curious readers out there as follows. Fixing a hyperdrive with a food processing unit and 300 meters of corridor wiring. Turning several maneuvering thrusters into close-range plasma cutters to repel a pirate boarding. Maneuvering a ship back into range of a station by intentionally venting the atmosphere and life support liquids. There are entire books that have been written about these adventures, as the humans call them. And the net is filled with more records and holovids if you need more. Every single one of these ideas is ludicrous to even come one with, and broke countless safety protocols in execution. Yet, in the time of crisis, it worked. Not well, of course. The fixed reactor had a 7,000% fuel cost increase, for example, but well enough. This trend of working just good enough is also seen in many other areas humans thrive. In research and development divisions, humans always inevitably occupy roles in the ideas and prototyping phases. Actually, ironing out the final details and ensuring maximum efficiency has left the races better suited for the task. Many sentients make fun of how horribly convoluted and bureaucratic the First Galactic Federation was, and it was widely considered that their best policy decisions was adopting the Trell's complete overhaul of the structure, shifting the Second Galactic Federation. What these sentients forget is that before humans took the initiative, there had been no democratic federation larger than 4 members in all of recorded history. It had always been a system of tributaries and vassals to a large empire, all shaky alliances between neighbors and no overarching collaboration. Humans were able to get people talking together enough that their real change was made. They showed us that something most thought impossible can work. Once you know that it can be done, ways to improve the existing system jump out. So next time you need to travel, make sure the ship you're on has a human on the crew, or preferably a normal engineer for maintenance and a human for if things get ugly. End of story. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed.